Illinois. He is the top Democrat on the House Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the U.S. and the Chinese Communist Party, and also sits on the House Intelligence Committee. Well, Congressman, what was your take? There was also a lot of fuss made over, especially in Chinese media back in Beijing, over President Biden, who we know is a car junkie, not junk cars, but really loves great cars, Corvettes, American cars, making a big fuss over the Chinese limo, the armored limo that President Xi was riding in the U.S., which may be a first.
Sure. Well, I'm glad that they made agreements with regard to establishing military-to-military communications channels. I'm glad that they had an agreement with regard to reducing fentanyl chemicals entering Mexico and then ultimately ending up in the United States. I'm also glad about the pandering, if you will, and the pandas coming back to the U.S. I love that. But I think what I wanted to hear a little more, and perhaps it was discussed, was the issue of the CCP's crackdown on human rights, especially the Uyghur genocide, as well as repression of Tibetans, Hong Kongers, and others. And I also wanted to hear a little more about the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, taking steps to lower its economic aggression, including the incessant cyber hacking and theft of intellectual property, among other things.
Yeah, there was very little mention of that, and not a whole lot delivered, it seems, on China agreeing to pressure Iran, which supplies so much oil to China, to try to contain the Middle East war. Yeah,
I think they probably talked about it. Based on what I read in the press, they had very extensive discussions about Iran, and I think they talked about Russia as well, especially with regard to Iran. I think that Xi Jinping was more in listening mode than talking mode, but he has tremendous leverage with regard to Iran, and he should use that leverage to reduce their nefarious activities, especially with regard to Hezbollah and Hamas.
The president, in trying to be as upbeat and positive about the summit as he was, and Xi also was pretty much during their public comments, might have slipped a little bit when he was asked again how he would describe President Xi. Let's watch.
Mr. President, after today, would you still refer to President Xi as a dictator? This is a term that you used earlier this year.
Well, look, he is. I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is a guy who runs a country that is a communist country that's based on a form of government totally different than ours.
That was not well received in the Chinese media, and there was a notable wince on the face of the very diplomatic Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, when the president used the term dictator again right in the middle of the summit.
Well, I think that the president was probably speaking truth. They have a very different form of government than we do, and there's no doubt that Xi Jinping is an authoritarian. I don't think it really harmed the progress of the summit or the meeting, and certainly he said it before, and we've still managed to make a little bit of progress, and they had the meetings yesterday, which I think overall were a very good, constructive first step in more extended dialogue.
And he was echoing, of course, Ronald Reagan by saying that as to whether Xi would live up to his agreements on fentanyl, he will trust but verify, which is what he said about Gorbachev.
That's right. Xi Jinping has said a lot of things in the past. Now we have to see whether his words and his actions are the same.